Hey everyone, how's it going? Today I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison between the LG Optimus F3 LS720 against the LG Volt LS740. Now I know that the F3 is kind of an old phone, but I'm wanting to kind of do a little bit of a comparison between these two phones because they're not that much different in processor wise. And the only biggest difference really is the screen size and a few other little small things. So let's go ahead and get started in this comparison. Everything that I say will be first of all with the F3, then will be with the Volt being second. So starting off, the F3 runs Android 4.1.2, while the Volt runs Android 4.4 KitKat. The F3 weighs 4 ounces, while the Volt weighs 4.8 ounces. The F3 has a 4-inch display, while the Volt has a 4.7-inch display. The F3 is 480 by 800 resolution at 233 ppi. While the Volt is 540 by 960 resolution at 234 ppi. Both of these phones have scratch resistant glass and cornering Gorilla Glass 2. The Optimus F3 has a 5 megapixel camera on the rear with an LED flash, records in full 1080p at 30 frames per second, and has a VGA front facing camera on the front. The Volt has a 8 megapixel camera on the rear with LED flash, records in full 1080 at 30 frames per second, and has a 1.3 megapixel front facing camera. The F3 has a 1.2 GHz dual core Snapdragon 400 processor with an Adreno 305 GPU with 1 GB of RAM with 4 GB of built-in storage, with a miserable 1.24 GB available to user, and supports up to a 32 GB micro SD card. The Volt has a 1.2 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 400 processor with an Adreno 305 GPU with 1 GB of RAM with 8 GB of built-in storage, with around 3.93 GB available to user, and it will support up to a 32 GB micro SD card. The F3 has a 2,460 mAh battery with around 16 hours of talk time, while the Volt has a 3,000 mAh battery with around 24 hours of talk time. Both of these phones do support LTE connectivity, and they both have Bluetooth 4.0. So yeah, the Volt is about a year old, maybe a little bit older, while the F3 was released in 2013. And looking at both of these phones here, they do look sort of similar, and they both work very well. As you see here, you got your back, your home button here, and your settings, along with your back home button here and your settings button. They both do light up when you get phone calls, text messages, all that good stuff. Cameras are both on the right top corner. On this side here, on the Volt, your volume rocker. On top is your hour blaster, 3.5mm headset jack. On the right side is your power button. Back is your camera, your flash, and on the bottom is your micro USB charging port and your microphone. And you see 2 grills here. One grill is a dummy grill, and this one right here is actually your speaker. This one here is just for looks. Moving to the F3, like I said, on the bottom here is your touch buttons, your ear speaker here. Left side is your volume rocker, right side is your power button. On top is your headset jack, and I'm guessing a noise cancellation. There on the bottom is your microphone, micro USB charging port. Back is your camera, your flash, and your single rear speaker. Now, as I power both of these phones on, They are both at 50% brightness, so they are the same brightness. And both screens do look pretty good. At 50%, the F3 surprisingly looks a little bit clearer. Try to focus in a little bit here. And as you see here, it's not wanting to come in the greatest, but anyway, you kind of get the general idea. Both of them are pretty smooth phones. The only problem with the Volt is that when you're on a game or an app, the games play smooth, apps run smooth, but when you push the home button, a lot of times the apps disappear and they go away. It takes about 5 seconds to come back. I've had a little bit of issue with the F3, but it's not that bad. Both of these phones do work very smoothly, both of them being the 400 Snapdragon processor with a dual core versus a quad core, and 8 gigs of internal storage against 4 gigs of internal storage. So we're going to look at a few of the benchmark tests that I ran on these phones. Which one is in the gallery. The Antutu is in the gallery here. And it came in at 18,137. And the F3 came in at 16,404. So not a big difference when it comes to the Antutu benchmark test. So yeah. Now we'll go in here and we will go into Geekbench. Actually, what we're going to do here is we're going to clear some of the RAM on both devices. And go to Geekbench. And let them run out. Now, the Optimus F3 does seem to be brighter and more vibrant at 50% than the LG. And honestly, both of them have very clear screens. I've always kind of liked the Jelly Bean Android system more really than the 5.0 or 4.4. I just always liked the 4.1.2 Jelly Bean for some reason. And the F3 is a nice, compact, compatible phone, with a 4-inch display, which is getting pretty small compared to some of these normal phones that you see. This minimum 4.5 inch. And even 5 inch is becoming the norm now on most phones. 4 inch is still nice if you want to have a phone to carry on you and not feel like a brick in your pocket. But both of them are really nice phones. Both of them have really good call quality, and really there's not much difference in the phones as far as the biggest issue is the internal storage, where the Volt has 8 gigs compared to 4 gigs, and 4 gigs available to user, and only 1.2 gigs available to user. You are able to move apps to the SD card on the LG Volt, but you are not able to on the LG Optimus F3, which is crazy. I figured that you would at least be able to move apps to the SD card on the F3, but you can't. So, kind of a bummer. So we see that the F3 got finished first, and we're going to see a little bit of the difference here when this finishes on the Volt. And as you see, the F3 on single core came in a pretty good, a bit ahead of the Volt at 407 versus 343 on the Volt. The multi-core, of course, is lower on the F3 at 748 and 1143 on the LG Volt. Backing out of here, we'll go to the quadrant benchmark test. Now I know which one's going to score higher on this test because I ran one before. But when you look at a phone that's been out a couple of years versus a phone that's been out for a year, with a dual core versus quad core, I'm really surprised at how good and how fluid the LG Optimus F3 runs compared to some of the newer phones. I mean, it's really a smooth phone, and it's a very good phone. Call quality is excellent. Battery life is decent. Compared to the LG Volt, there's really not that much difference. If you would like to see a picture and video comparison between these two phones here, leave them in the comments section below, and I will do that. If I don't get any requests to do that, then I will not do it. But if I get requests to do it, then of course I will do that. So we'll look here. And as I figured on the F3, it came in at, if I can get it to focus in, well, can't see it, but it's 4,948. And on the Volt, it's 8,411. So quite a bit of difference there. Almost double. Well, I won't say double, but it's about 3,500 points ahead on the LG Volt versus the F3. But as you see here, even though this looks kind of washed out, it's really not washed out. It just looks too bright compared to the Volt, which has a better clear screen than the F3, thanks to the 540 by 960 versus the 8 or whatever I said that the screen was on the F3. But like I say, both phones run smooth. I have had more issue with lag on the LG Volt, surprisingly, which, you know, it is what it is. You know, as far, like I said, as far as gameplay goes, I've not had any issue with the Volt or the F3. But returning to the home screen from the web or a game or an app, the Volt does seem to have more lag and takes more time to start functioning, even if the phone is in this mode here. There's times I will power it up here, scroll up, the apps will be gone. I'll scroll over, they'll all be gone. They gotta all pop back up again, and that gets very annoying. So for some reason there is lag there, but it does work good on an average basis. The same way with the LG Optimus F3. Both of them are super great phones. I'm looking forward to trying out the LG Volt 2, which I believe won't be much of a comparison difference between the regular LG Volt. But I've always been a big fan of the Optimus F3, even though it does have a small 4-inch display. It's still very easy to use, and as far as the keyboard goes, the keyboard is a little bit better on the Volt than on the F3. But you know, they both work about the same. Both of them are fast, both of them are quick. Now the Optimus F3 does have a little bit more lag when you get into bigger games or into bigger apps, but that's to be expected, you know, from going from a dual core to a quad core. So all in all, battery life of course is superior on the LG Volt than on the F3, but both of them are good. Call quality is good on both phones. The LG Volt does have better reception than the LG Optimus F3. I find myself being out of service more on the F3 than on the Volt. So that's just one of them things. But like I say, just a comparison that kind of went longer than I wanted it to. And I wanted to just kind of bring out some of the features. I'm not going to go into a whole lot with these phones. But you know, here of course is your settings menu. Not much difference from what you see on the Volt compared to the F3. But anyway, if you got any questions or comments about either one of these phones, please leave them in the comment section below. If there's something that I missed that you want to know about these phones, of course, leave them in the comment section below and I'll get back with you as soon as possible. Like I said earlier, if you would like to see a picture and video comparison, of these two phones, leave them in the comment section below and I will do that. Also, if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. If you're not already, subscribe to my channel. I sure would appreciate it. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.